Hello, Reds. How are we? It's me, Kev, Niall, and Nigel this evening, speaking about the mighty Liverpool. Gents, ladies as well, anyone watching, if you are watching on the repeat, yeah, we're going to have a jam-packed chocker show. The links for the lads are all in the description, so please do, as I say, to all my guests that come on the channel, please do head over, subscribe, show your support. I know Niall, Kev, quite prominent in terms of their channels, do a lot of content. So please do head over, show your support as well, Reds. Quick summary of what we're going to be discussing tonight. Obviously, as the title and the thumbnail indicates, in terms of priority for Liverpool in terms of this window, is getting that six, the CDM depth as well. We know we've got Pacetic, we know we've got Fabinho as well, Trent in that inverted role as well. But for Liverpool to very much capitalise on just challenging, really, in terms of the top level. I think, as we'll discuss tonight with the lads, we do need depth. In terms of Lavia latest, we've got the latest tweet from Florian Plattenberg, the very well-respected Bundesliga correspondent as well, in relation to what he said. Tchouameni, in terms of Mbappe funding as well, do Real Madrid need any potential funding? We know they're minted, but in terms of they are going to be eagerly pursuing the French striker, will they need to free up funds? Potentially in terms of Tchouameni, Valverde, whoever does leave in the next 12 months for Real Madrid pre-season, and then the final one we'll speak about, obviously Darwin Núñez. His English is improving, hopefully a bit more Scouse lessons as well. But Niall, are you excited, mate? Obviously, we'll speak about Curtis Jones as well, and I'll ask the lads and mainly everyone listening as well now. But how are you, mate? Are you happy for Curtis and obviously Harvey Elliott? I know as I spoke about last night. Now, I'm not a big avid watcher of England, as you know, mate. But I'm happy for those two lads in particular to being very successful. We all want their happiness, and it only goes in terms of their developments and in future months and years, really, for Liverpool. Only bodes even greater, better for them, mate.
Yeah, I think it's like, first of all, congratulations to the under 21s. What an achievement. And like they sort of, like, when you look back on the tournament, they kind of coasted it, really, didn't they? The difference in the levels was quite incredible, really. And what a save by the boy Trafford last night as well to seal the deal was sensational, the double save as well. But yeah, very happy for both boys. Obviously, especially Curtis, because he's had a kind of a tough time of it and stuff like that, and he's been in for a lot of criticism and all that kind of stuff. But I think most of us did believe that given a run and getting playing time and stuff like that is vital for Curtis. He's a confidence kind of player and stuff like that. But he's had a sensational tournament. The double-edged sword for us, I suppose, as Liverpool fans, is there's probably a couple of players in there we'd like to sign, and obviously their valuation has gone up through the roof as well because of the success of it as well, So It's a difficult one. Obviously the boy, lead boy Caldwell, I should say, and that's kind of caused its own problems for us somewhat as well. So, but yeah, hats off to the two boys. It was fantastic, especially Curtis. I mean, his performances throughout the tournament have been sensational, and it's a super group of players as well. When you look at that under 21 squad, they've some phenomenal players in there as well. Serious talent in there. The boy Cole Palmer and all and stuff like that looks like a proper baller and stuff. All of a sudden,
I was going to say, no, it was interesting that they used him as Curtis Jones as a in a pivot of a six, wasn't it, mate? Obviously, and that just goes to show in the next couple of months, potentially, as we're speaking about tonight, could you be utilising a six for Jurgen Klopp? It's an option.
I suppose at the under 21 level, I suppose it's okay. I think at the Premier League level, I don't think he has that kind of that
spatial awareness.
No, but even that kind of nastiness in him. I don't think he has that nastiness in him to be a Premier League six. To be a Premier League six, you have that. We spoke about it last time we were on. Myself and Nigel were talking about it, that we need a few bastards in the side, if you like, and stuff like that and all. But I don't know whether he has that kind of bite in him, if you want, to be a Premier League six. That would be my only criticism, but certainly the back end of the season he's done really, really well. Springboarding into the under 21s has performed really, really well in that. So he's certainly given the gaffer food for thought, that's for sure. And that's all we really want. What we want Jurgen Klopp having to think more and more about players in certain positions and stuff like that, rather than the same old situation where we rock up to the bridge in August and Henderson is on the starting 11 and various things like that and all, you know what I mean? We want them to be thinking a bit more broader in terms of the squad and stuff like that. And certainly the more headaches those players give them, the better, because then he kind of has to go earn his money rather than dealing with a squad of maybe 17 or 18 players for a season. Maybe we have a 22 or a 23 that we can utilise, especially with Thursday night football. So yeah, it's all good.
Happy days, mate. Owen has joined us from the Cop On podcast. How you doing, mate? Are you good?
I'm very well, thank you. Sorry for being late.
No,
I have a 2-year-old and the other 2-month-old even. Blimey, time is not moving that fast. 2-month-old, and I don't know how many people have got experience with 2-year-olds, but they're absolutely nuts. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you. Kindly, the good lady has allowed me some time to spend with my mates chatting about Liverpool. Very interesting words about Curtis Jones there. Yeah. I will have to say something about it. So just very quickly about Curtis, his tackling, right? His tackling. People are surprised at this. In the last year, in the last 365 days, according to StatsBomb, his tackling is in the 87th percentile. So he's in the top 87% of all midfielders in all of the top 5 leagues for tackling. His interceptions, on the other hand, absolute garbage. Only in the 2nd percentile, 98%. So what he can learn is how to read the game a lot better in defence. But he is tenacious. I've got high hopes for him. High hopes. How are you doing, Jack? How is everyone?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. You're always welcome. And that's why, there's quite a lot of 2-year-olds on Twitter, mate.
It's all 2-month-olds. Yeah, it makes much sense.
2 days old, to tell you that now. But do you want to add any more in relation to what obviously Niall's just alluded to there, Owen? As you mentioned, it's a massive, great stat, as you mentioned there, mate, as the tackling success rate. It's obviously definitely an archetype in terms of what Jurgen Klopp and a profile really that Liverpool need in that midfield, more combative. And would you say, we've seen that at the back end of last season? Obviously in that 11 game.
Yes.
Fantastic.
The change of formation was perfect for Curtis, wasn't it? I mean, he just playing into his strengths. Honestly, he's £5 million if anyone plays FPL Fantasy Premier League, and that's the best deal. Everyone's talking about Enciso from Brighton, brilliant player. I think it's 4 goals and 3 assists in 7 starts for Enciso, so definitely worth a punt at 5.5 million. But Curtis, man, he got 94%. Did you see that? 94% passing accuracy for the entire tournament of the under-21s. And, a good passing accuracy for a midfielder is around 85%. Then you're doing really well. At 94 is Xabi Hernandez style. That is absolute master, the maestro, the watchmaker, the clockmaker, the tick-tock, ticky-taka guy. Yeah. So he's. I've got high hopes for him. I really do.
Yeah, definitely.
Nigel looks convinced. You convinced, Nigel?
Yeah. Nigel, go on. Go ahead, mate. I'll let you speak about Curtis. Even add Harvey Elliott to the mix as well, really.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of people saying he was kind of coming in and out there for a while last season. And people saying, he needs to get involved more. Well, I saw him with England getting involved more, and I saw him with Liverpool as well at the end of the season, doing exactly that. So I have no issues with Curtis Jones at all. We want to get him on the ball. We want to get him involved. So why not? Yeah, he'd be ideal. He could save us a lot of money in the long run.
Yeah, Harvey Elliott, mate, in relation to, obviously, it wasn't a first team nailed down choice for England this tournament, mate, but it was interesting. And I think, as we've seen with the likes of Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, in terms of the experience, that's what the good thing about young talented players, especially when they're in an environment, in terms of European environment, in terms of big club environments as well. It's only going to bode well for the likes of Jones, Elliott as well. Nigel, do you reckon, in terms of long-term potential going down the line? Because let's not forget, Elliott, as I spoke about last night, he's still 20 years old. Curtis Jones still only 22 years old. And as Niall alluded to there, Nigel, before, there were certain players in this tournament that a certain one that played central midfield last night for Spain that looked a bit out of his depth in terms of the quality. Obviously, in Gabriel Vega, I think he's been linked with a couple of teams in terms of Liverpool, PSG, Manchester City in recent weeks as well. Where do you anticipate Harvey Elliott's developments in terms of going into next season? Do you anticipate him being a right winger, or do you anticipate him continuing to play that right central midfield role for Liverpool going to next season?
Yeah, the one thing I'd say about Harvey is, I said it on the last pod we did, that I'd like to see Darwin Núñez in one set position for a while to see if he can nail something down. I think we need to do the same thing with Harvey. Nail him down to a position, and I'm not sure. We saw that trying to play between Mo and Trent last season, and it didn't succeed. We need to try and find him. Like, is he a number 10? Like, should he be sitting in behind the striker and playing that role? But it's not easy getting into that position with the way we are now currently, with like McAllister, Szoboszlai. Bobby would have been slotting, dropping back into the hole as well to try and set people up like that. I saw somebody else saying about him as well. He's a very, very good player, but might lack a little bit of pace. He's a very good player, but I would be worried about some positional sense and a little bit about the pace as well, I think.
Yeah, I think he's still young enough to learn that, mate. Yeah, he's spot on. Kev, as Wiggs has said there, if people have been branding rounds in relation to Caldwell from Chelsea, not being publicly on record really, but if you listen to the journalist, you want a fee if they are to sell him. Ideally, they don't, but in a fee in the region of a record-breaking fee in relation to 70 to 100 million for the England centre half, mate. What price tag would you slap on Curtis Jones? Not that we want to sell him, but what in the current climate would you find ourselves in? Because I said this last night on the stream, especially on social media, everyone would be waxing lyrical. If you weren't Scouse or you played for another English team and you were English, you look at obviously Ramsey at Aston Villa. Look at Gordon, just gone to Newcastle for 50 million. Yeah, he's a lot of money, but a lot of these England youngsters have certainly got good, big, lofty ambitions there, Kev, mate. But Gibbs White as well. Obviously, under 17. Was it World Cup winner as well? Morgan Gibbs White. He went for a 45, 50 million pound fee. But Kev, fee on Curtis Jones if you had to value him. And just in relation to what the lads have said in terms of concluding on, obviously, your thoughts on Curtis Jones and Elliott in terms of.
Just, I was muted. I didn't even mute myself. Right. I didn't even know what was happening there. I was on mute there for a second. But yeah, Curtis Jones. I mean, he's for a person of his age, he has to be ranked up there as being one of the better midfielders or all-round midfielders in the league. You know, I mean, we don't rate him much in Liverpool as much as we should have, but I think he's kind of proven his time and time again when he does get a back-to-back games together. He is a talented player, and he hasn't had that opportunity yet at Liverpool, and it's a shame really because he's a Scouser and you'd like to see him get time in the team, but it's going to be very hard to see those digits pop. He might see a lot of time near the start of the season, because if you go by Klopp, unless you're Luis Diaz, where you're sorely needed in that position, or you know, at that time Moreno, where we didn't know what to expect from Andy Robertson, he tends to play some of the regulars in place first and then ease in with you know, it's the only ones I can think of, maybe Gakpo and Luis Diaz, that have had a faster breakthrough into the team than most, and most of the time he just kind of eases them in. But evaluation on Curtis Jones, I mean, he literally walked the under-21s, and if people are currently and constantly spending and overspending on players because they do really well in lower level tournament, I mean, look at us with Marcus Babbel and you know, and the likes of that, and I'd say we'll take a hindsight. If Lavia is 50 million, Curtis Jones is worth well more than that, to be honest with you, because he's played much more games for Liverpool.
Go on, Kev, and get everyone on Twitter. And get everyone.
I think so. I don't care about Twitter. They're all weirdos on there anyway. But like, So for me, yeah, that's there. No? Twitter's a base if you want to go in and you find every angry Ultimate Team FIFA player that's on there and really thinks that that's what happens really in football and how finances work. Idiots,
Could we get Lavia to put his medals on the table with Curtis, please?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's my whole point as well. Look, Curtis Jones is a very, very talented player. We all liked him when he first came in to the team, not because of his goal for Everton, it's because of his confidence and what he knows he can do. He's very, very confident in himself. But even when he takes a dip, he still works on his standards. He hasn't done well let's say 2 seasons ago for Liverpool, but he was carrying an injury then on and off, and he kept it kind of quiet. But now he's seems to have surpassed that, and he's at a stage where he's actually building momentum. And some people are right. Like if the likes of him or McAllister in that kind of similar position don't hit the ground running, you could see Curtis Jones starting before McAllister even gets a shot at the spot. Eventually, obviously, I think that McAllister will take over the spot, but with the form that Curtis Jones is in, you'd have to play him in some sort of role going forward. I can only see him playing a lot of cup games and rotation games. But yeah, look, if Lavia is 50 million, Curtis Jones is 65 million, and that's how ridiculous it is.
Yeah, the valuations as all of us have spoke about. But let's rattle through everyone's comments as well. It's been highlighting them as well. James Matthias, if you use Curtis Jones in the old 4-3-3 system, I'm pretty sure that he won't be as good as when he plays more freely in the better fullback system as well. Interesting, mate. Planner, when he changed it off, I think Red Beard's changed his name. Yeah, there we go. Just having a little, but big up there, Russ, as well. Massive Arsenal fan. We'll also be getting you on the channel this season, mate, 100%. But in terms of segueing us perfectly there, Russ, in terms of Niall Lavia, I'll just bring up obviously the Florian Plattenberg as well. Everyone, if you missed it today on the socials, talks between Liverpool and Lavia are concrete and ongoing. Understand there is no agreement in terms of salary conditions yet. LFC, as reported, his price tag is around 50 million. Klopp wants him. Very press-resistant player, even in high-pressure situations. He loses the ball only once out of 10 times as well, and that's Sky Sport DE, obviously, for Belgium. Niall, he's a player that in recent weeks has garnered quite a lot of media attention from Liverpool fans. Do you think just your general thoughts, really, mate? Do you think he would be a player that, especially as Florian Plattenberg just indicated there, Jurgen Klopp, by all accounts, wants him, but I don't think Liverpool are going to be bullied in a situation where we're paying over the odds for a player that you look at Manchester City in terms of they set their own valuation in relation to Declan Rice. Do you anticipate Liverpool to have a price tag in mind? And do you anticipate them really to potentially move on if they don't reach the price tag, really?
Yeah, I think the difficulty, I mean, he's a quality player, and we've seen that. Like, he was one of the shining lights, obviously, in that Southampton team last season that were so poor, and his play is very I like it. I like his mindset in the way he plays as well. He's very clever in possession as well. The thing about it is, I suppose, with Klopp, it's just when you look at such a list, and I think we spoke about it before, the amount of midfielders we have on the books and stuff like that, and just, you bring in another guy in there is the potential. Are you bringing him in because, we know about Thiago? There's been rumours about talks with Galatasaray and various things like that and all and stuff. And, when you're trying to weigh up all the midfielders that you have and who you want to keep and who you want to go onto the bench to make it really, really strong and give you those options, it's a difficult decision to make. I'm not so much hung up on the price because I think the market's gone bananas anyway. So the pricing is just ridiculous, and it's crazy stuff at the moment, what's being paid out for certain players and stuff like that. So I tend not to look at the price. I tend more look at the player. If Klopp wants him, he's going to have to figure out a way to bring him in. There has been a lot of talk about this sell the boy and all this kind of thing. I think looking at our midfield, I do think it makes sense to move some of that around or ship some of it out to make that space. So we do have that core midfield of really high quality that we can call on from the bench and stuff like that and all. And I think if we bring him in, and we do bring him in that position, I'll be happy to bring him in. I'm not too sure in terms of moving on. I think if we do move on from it, like, who do we move on to? There hasn't been an awful lot of options out there and stuff like that. And the fact that Arsenal and Chelsea are also sniffing around it as well. But I mean, I think they're kind of the understanding as well with the business they've to do and the business that they've done. They're not going to bridge across the 50 million either and stuff like that. So I think the three of us are all in the same position. It's trying to figure out from the boy what's the best option for him. Does he come in? Does he slot straight in? Are we going to see a better looking Fabinho this year? You spoke about Curtis in the English team. Stefan has to come back. There's a lot of options there, you know, and I don't know. When you see there's a lot of options there, even though Klopp wants him, Klopp has wanted a lot of players in the past and stuff like that he's brought in. Doesn't necessarily mean he's used them or played them. So that would be the only concerning thing. And I'm sure Lavia, looking at Liverpool at the moment, he sees it one. I just wonder, is he looking at him in terms of potential? And I think we should be a little bit more bolder in the market than just seeking potential, or future potential, if you like. I think we really need to put pieces in there that
more ready-made.
Really elevate us. I'm not saying he's not ready. I mean, he's played in the Premier League. He's looked really, really good and stuff like that. I'm just not sure if he comes in Klopp's mind. I wonder, does he take Fabinho out of the team to the bench? And I'm not sure if that's the case. I need a bit more convincing.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Kev, do you think potentially Southampton, given our previous transfer negotiations in relation to Virgil van Dijk and co, do you think that might be a potential stumble and block in relation to negotiations, as Niall's alluded to, spot on, in relation to getting the deal over the line potentially as well? But do you anticipate, we've seen it in like the last 20, 30 years, certain clubs like are
stubborn.
Certain. Do you anticipate Southampton to be quite stubborn in certain negotiations?
They're deludedly stubborn. I mean, no offense, the kids played, 29, 30 games. That's it. And he's done nothing. He got relegated with a team. If he was that good and that influential for Southampton, why are they in the championship right now? I know, lad on his shoulders, he's just a kid, and it's a lot to point the finger at, but you got to point the finger at the fact that Southampton are the young side, and anybody who's leaving that side. If James, like, my thing is, I know there's a difference in age and whatever like that, but how is James Ward-Prowse less money to get out of the club than Lavia? You know, it's the one, but there's not really, what is it? There's been interest from Arsenal and Liverpool, that's about it. I mean, that doesn't mean that it's automatically a £50 million player.
Do you know
35
what the issue,
for future potential, yeah.
Do you know what the issue is, though, Kev? I think DMs are very hard to come by. Whereas if you look at Ward-Prowse in the position he plays in on that sort of left flank and stuff like that, you can pick those guys up all around Europe. But trying to find a real quality DM is really, really tough to find, especially at the moment. That's why so many clubs are focused on this Lavia guy at the moment. Plus, obviously, you have the homegrown bump as well off him as well, because he's only
I completely get that. It's just that, and there's a few out there, but I still don't rate him at 50 million. 50 million in a total package, but not 50 million straight up.
But that price comes from the fact that Man City apparently have this clause
40 million
buyback year.
Yeah.
But they have a buyback clause of 40 million for next year. So Southampton are thinking, presumably, that Man City are going to pay 40 million next year, so we can keep him in the Championship because he is a quality player. So then they get 40 million next year, and he might help them get promoted.
Yeah.
In which case, that's worth way more than 10 million to them anyway. If he gets them back,
if he wants to go.
You have a potential sell-on clause as well.
Depends on the player,
Yeah, I think you get like 20%, supposedly, Man City.
Well, if that's the case, and Klopp wants him, then just buy him. But like for me personally, I don't rate him at that money. If it's for future, and Klopp wants him, then buy him. To be honest with you, lads, I don't care who we buy, how much money we spend, or whatever. I'm going my personal opinion. He's not worth that money, but at the same time, he could be in future potential.
Yeah, I want to throw in a name into the mix.
Okay.
Would you pay 50 million for Paulinho or Fulham?
Yeah.
No, he's too old.
You won't get him for that. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
you wouldn't. That's
Yeah.
true.
You get like 70, 80 million. They want for most.
He's massive, yeah. He's
I
massive.
read the other day they put 90 on him or something like that.
Jesus.
Scandalous.
Oh,
The balls on these Premier League teams at the moment and around Europe, the
Yeah.
absolute shithousery of it is ridiculous.
Yeah. The market,
Apparently,
they're
see,
clearing the
Brighton
market.
now want 100 million now for Caicedo. Give me a break. Like, good
100
Lord.
million, wow.
100 million. Like,
Crazy.
three Alexis McAllisters nearly, stop, go away.
Yeah, it's absolutely mental.
Someone needs to shut some of these clubs down and just leave them with the players. Let them dwell on them or something like that. Just to reset the market a bit. I get Spider's point exactly, Kev's point, absolutely.
That's what it is. That's what
but
I want.
the pricing is mental everywhere. Everywhere. Like, it's just crazy.
Just on the Lavia point there, lads.
Yeah.
He was at Anderlecht.
Mm.
You got to look at who his manager was at Anderlecht and why he went to Manchester City.
Vincent
His
Kompany.
company. And he's Belgian. You know what I mean? That's a major point. That has to be. And why he went to Man City. And then Company is, you wouldn't be surprised if Burnley kind of stepped in if he's that good as well to try and get him for a season or something like that.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean? They probably wouldn't before that.
If I had my choice, lads, I'd be banging all the money into the defender, and I would stick rotation between Fabinho and what Jesus Christ, Trent. Like, I
You
want to
don't
see move
think
into the midfield.
we're incredibly short, Spider? See, I think we're sleepwalking into a disaster. If we're playing 3-box-3 or the WM, whatever you want to call it, but there's a box in midfield with 2 DMs, right? Trent is one of them automatically. What if Trent gets injured? We've got Fabinho who can play there. Curtis, who can play there, sort of under 21 level. Would you trust him against Man City? Maybe, I don't know. But he's a maybe at the number 6. He's better further forward. Trent is also arguably better further forward. McAllister's better further forward. Soboslai's better further forward. Who have we got? Fabinho, who can't run. Thiago, who can't run. Henderson, who can't run. Trent, who can't really run. That's not his game. He's brilliant at other things. We've got 6 midfielders if you discount, as I do, Thiago and Henderson because they're too old. I'm sorry to say they're too old. Then we're going into a season where we've got 4 positions, and you should have at least 8 players, but even more than that to count for the injuries in a Jurgen Klopp team. And we've got 6, or even if you count Thiago and Henderson, who are bound to get injured and bound to, be too slow, then we've got 6 players for 4 positions in a season where we're going to do Europa League Thursday, Sunday. It's a recipe for disaster.
No, I see, but by
Chet.
Chet just in there as well for me. But
excuse me, I forgot. Yes, by Chet, excellent. Okay, so now we've got 7 players for 4 positions.
Is Tyler Martin back? Is he back or is he going back out?
Probably
he's going back out. So. But what you're saying is that it's because Fabinho didn't have enough help in midfield last season is where he struggled. Henderson was too slow. Thiago was always injured. We didn't have enough people in there. With the 2 lads that have come in and Gakpo that can also play in that left-sided midfield role where Thiago plays, we have a lot in there now that can give him a bit of cover. But for me, if we're going to be playing that box midfield, we're going to need somebody either on that right-hand side or that left-hand side of Virgin Canate to come in, and then maybe then start promoting or playing them. I don't know. It's just that we were leaking so many goals last season. It was ridiculous. Passes straight through our defence. The lads are too slow, and I'd rather somebody else with a bit of pace in there. Even if we don't do that, and we're putting all our eggs in the basket of a DM, then why not? And some people are just going to kill me for it, but because just to be speed alone, why not just go with the back 3 and bang in Gomez in there, who can play right-hand sided, and just leave him on I say that Canate. I know. No, not the M. Jesus Christ, right-sided centre-back. Jesus, no. Kind of more like playing that right-back kind of position, But because he plays that well when he plays, he's just not good at a right centre-back. But he can play a right-sided centre-back, on the side of Canate and Verge. There's ways of covering that, but like the moves have to be made. No, Klopp wanted all these people in before he started this pre-season, and it's now getting tight. It's not like, I know there's 2 months left in the window nearly, but it's getting tight. So if the Lavia deal is over the line, that's well and good, but I still think we need somebody in that defence. I really do.
Just rattle through all the. I'll get to you there in a sec, Niall. Apologies, mate. Just rattle through all these comments. I'll ask obviously the lads quickly. Over 50 million price tag probably gets you half a leg of Tchouameni like at this current moment in time anyway. Using 50 million on a DM when we have 2 DMs already, I don't get it. Well, Matthias, we said this, was it 2-3 years ago when we had our centre-back crisis while we buying centre-halves? And then look what happens. Injuries happen in football, as we know. And what we don't want, especially over that last couple of years, all of us as a fan base really have very much said, looked at each other and went, again, we haven't prioritised the depth in Liverpool's squad. We shouldn't be going, what if Liverpool had X, Y, and Z players in the squad? It should be a case going to next season. This window should be the priority massively, where we go out, we address all of our issues, we get rid of all the excuses, none of this lethargic nature, we were tired and all that, which we were last year. We've done countless pods on, but in terms of when we come, it fundamentally comes down to the quality within Liverpool's squad to very much compete and win Premier Leagues, win Champions Leagues as well. Yes, we've done it in the past, but to build that consistent rhythm, consistent momentum, you need quality in your team, world-class quality as well. And if it costs a premium, go and bloody do it, Liverpool, as well.
If you had a choice, lads, and it is because you see the money that Tchouameni went to Real Madrid for. I know I was talking to Ricky earlier from the thing, and he was saying that because he turned us down, he wouldn't go for Tchouameni. But that doesn't make any sense. Well, it makes sense to me on a morality level. But it doesn't make sense on the fact that if you had a choice between Lavia right now at 50 million and Tchouameni at 60 million because they have to sell him cheaper from what they bought him, who would you choose?
On the Tchouameni train, absolutely, 100%.
It's because he's already finished the article,
but
so he's there.
But in Lavia's defense, like this is an important stat about him, is that he was apparently the best, at least in England. I'm not sure about Europe. At stopping counterattacks, like being that guy to break down immediately.
The interceptor.
Exactly. Well, yeah, it's not really. His interceptions are very good for a young player. He's in the 73rd percentile, which is higher than João Paulinho, for example. But there are some brilliant defensive midfielders out there. So, and I just got to say, someone that Connor from LFC Council mentioned in the chat, Florentino Luis, there you go, would have Florentino Luis from Benfica. He's the best in Europe at intercepting. So he would be brilliant at this as well. But this is a glaring weakness that Lavia or Florentino Luis or other players would be good at stopping, is yes, intercepting, but breaking up the immediate counterattack.
Getting the footing.
We were like custard, it was like a sort of, like a baguette in a bowl of custard to get through us, last season. We were so easy.
Like my only thing for that is like, I agree with you definitely on the fact of Lavia, but I want to also see the priority done in the defense. So if it was me, and we're not going to go for somebody big, your Gavardials or your Inacios or any of these guys, you could get a Lavia and also get on the cheap somebody like a David Hanko from Feyenoord, who's extremely quick, fantastic. He's brilliant at recovering into position and getting back, and he can play right center or right-sided centre back. He can play left-sided centre back, and he can play right and left back, which is great. But a player like him would probably suit Klopp's style, because Liverpool are great at doing the countering and pushing up the bodies and having that high line. But he's one of the guys that loves playing the high line because he can get back really, really quickly. And if Klopp is going to stick to that style of football, he's going to need guys like this in here. So if we are going to, but then you'd have to maybe have a move of Matip on. At least Lavia counts as a homegrown player. So if I was going on that,
actually, Lavia, he will in a couple of years.
Yeah. And it's but even for that, I would go for the likes of a David Hanko from Feyenoord over these other guys that are all hyped up, and then bang all our money on that guy in midfield if that's the case. But if not, then go big at back and get somebody in there to at least be an extra body in the midfield. So
you can get two from the Dutch league. You can get a DM for cheap, Sangare.
Yeah.
You can get the centre back who I don't know, but Sangare, I only know the stats, and he's terrific.
Yeah.
So many metrics. So I'd go for him for 25 million easily.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's your cover players right there. If you need them, and you still have your Joe Gomez in there that can play these positions as well. So that's who I would go. If you haven't seen David Hanko, guys, have a look at him. He's really, really quick. So and he knows how to put in a tackle as well. He can also play a DM role if needed too, which is great. So if we're looking at an all-round type of player, get him. You could probably throw them 25 million, and then still get your Lavia across the line. So it's worth thinking about.
Yeah, we've burned the bridges. I remember being about 10, watching all these players. Milan Jovanovic looked great on YouTube. David and Go, bloody hell, new Thierry Henry. That looks on the YouTube highlights.
Jovanovic, he only had a he only had a hairline like Zidane. That was about it.
Yeah, and Andrew Voronin as well, boys. He was the worst one. Voronin was slapping goals in left, right, and centre in America or wherever.
You get on the chat to put in the worst 11 for Liverpool. That'd be brilliant.
That should be fun. I think we've already done that episode.
We did a few episodes back, didn't we? Yeah.
But it changes a lot. So see who they can remember this time.
And we'll have to bar names out anyway. But we'll wrap through all these anyway, and then we should be looking at Joshua. I'm loving all the scouting network in the comments tonight. But that's the beauty. That's the thing to do. And everyone, there was a lad from. There's a lad from that I've seen people mention the Boca Juniors, the DM. I've forgotten his name, but he's supposedly a youngster, an Argentinian youngster anyway, that potentially would be looking for. But Nigel, in relation to, as the lads have alluded to, do you think, what's your rationale thinking in relation to what the lads have mentioned there? There is value in the market, and this is where Liverpool have really got to be shrewd. As the lads have mentioned, a couple of names really, but you look at Brighton, and obviously they've only just recently got Mohamed Dahoud from Borussia Dortmund anyway, a couple of weeks ago. So it wouldn't surprise me if he takes to the Premier League like a duck to water, and he's just another one of them great Brighton central midfielders as well. How do Liverpool alleviate a situation where we're not getting roped in, as we've mentioned with Lavia? I'm hoping, Nigel, that Liverpool in the next couple of weeks before the window shuts, that we have a target and we don't do what we've done with Tchouameni, where it seemed, if you believe all the reports, we had a lot of money and then we didn't really actively seek then to buy the target below or the other target below them as well, mate. I don't want to be doing that.
Yeah, we see. The thing is, we seem to look at players, and like 2 days later, it's done. You know, if we don't get a player within a couple of days, it's not too likely that we're going to get him. We went in and we got Fabinho like that, you know, really, really quickly. If you look at our transfers recently, it's been Liverpool like the player. Liverpool have made a bid for the player. Liverpool have signed the player. Not these ongoing situations like lads like Tchouameni and lads like, you know, all this Mbappe talk and stuff like that. If it's guys like that and the talk rumbles on and other teams start getting mentioned, you can forget about it. Like United were supposed to be signing Fabinho, and next thing all of a sudden we get him signed. You know, it's a bit strange the way we're doing this, but talking in these seems to be a bit redundant at times with the way we sign players, because people are talking, oh, we should sign this guy and this guy and this guy. Next thing we've signed 3 or 4 players nobody's ever heard of. That's
a Buzzlight one as well, lads. Like we were all doing our shows last couple of weeks and come out in a matter of 24 hours. It's like, oh, we've been and then we got him.
So like we could sit here and talk for days on end, like matchsticks holding open our eyes about transfers and stuff like that. Next thing all of a sudden we go and sign some Martian. You know,
I think Nigel,
nobody's ever heard of.
If you see any,
I think you mean a legal alien.
Yeah. If you see any post that says that starts with a player of interest or a player we appreciate, you can straight away discard that straight away, because that's definitely not how we do business. A player that we appreciate or a player of interest. Good Lord, like the CIA. Good Lord.
Right. Get the envelopes out. And get the envelopes out this pre-season. He's probably give 3 of them to Naby Ox and someone else whoever's left this window anyway.
He did try. Let's not forget that.
But leading into the final and closing section, we'll speak about pre-season as well. But wanted to as well, chat, get you, as Kev's alluded to in the chat, get your DM choice in chat if you haven't, or your right centre back or your left.
Apologies, Jack. I just realised it came out under your name. I thought it was my own name I was going to type on. Sorry.
You're in control. All good, mate. All good. But in terms of, I'll start with you, Niall, in relation to pre-season. We spoke about over, especially last season when we've all done our pods. Liverpool need to hit the ground running, especially this season. We all said it last season. What was it, 10 weeks into the season, and we were looking at each other going, "Oh my God, not the best to start anyway." We know historically how important Jurgen Klopp does speak about pre-season, and obviously he didn't really have a proper pre-season last season. It was like too many pre-seasons in the middle of the World Cup, mate. How much emphasis? Massive thank you, Owen. If you have to shoot anyway, thank you very much. The Cop On podcast, make sure you do head over, subscribe. The links are in the description. But now, how much emphasis, how important do you anticipate this pre-season for Liverpool to be, mate?
I think it's going to be
the biggest.
I suppose you could argue that probably, I think 11 games out, we pretty much identified the fact that the season was kind of done and that we were just kind of the poor form of United and kind of Newcastle somewhat brought us back into kind of a bit of hope. But in reality, I think for the last 11 games, I think Jurgen had been playing around with kind of formations and players and stuff like that. And you could argue that nearly those last 11 games of the season gone were kind of nearly the beginning of the preseason to get his thoughts and his ideas of what he wanted, the inverting of Trent and various other things and stuff like that. I think it's vital because I still I'm not too sure whether he's convinced of what our kind of identity is going to be in terms of how we're going to play, and what that formation is going to be and how we can change that for different teams and different occasions and stuff like that. So I think we're going to see a very different preseason where I don't think he's just going to go in and run the guts out of the guys military style the way he normally does. I think he learned from last year that he absolutely tore them asunder on that altitude training, I think in Switzerland or wherever it was, the camp. And it absolutely destroyed a number of the lads. So I think where it will be vital, I think it'll be more vital from a tactical point of view. I think most of the guys, it's kind of been a fairly short break for them. What if they had roughly a month? You know what I mean? They generally keep themselves fairly fit anyway. They don't just go off and hit it hard and stuff like that. So I don't think it'll take much to bring them back up fitness-wise and stuff like that. But I think tactically he's going to try and figure out in his head what way he wants to move these chess pieces around and who potentially else he's going to bring in. Or, if he does bring in a Lavia, what does that mean? Does he move a player somewhere else? What's his view on Trent in the inversion role and stuff like that? If he's going to invert him, does he regard him as a midfielder now and how that affects things? And even up front and all, he's a lot of decisions to make up front when you think about the abundance of riches he has there. So who's going to be the three guys that take to the field at Stamford Bridge in literally 5 weeks, lads? It's 5 weeks to Stamford Bridge, basically, And I mean, they're the kind of things I think he needs to iron out in pre-season. More so than kind of like, I mean, obviously McAllister will have to.
Who would be your?
Who
would be your three now in terms
up
of
front?
Your yeah.
You're probably going with Diaz, Gakpo, and Salah. Yeah. I think that's what he'll probably begin with. I think the conundrum really is not really up front either because we have cover and we have options. I think the thing is in midfield. What's that midfield 3 or 4 going to look like when it inverts or what happens and stuff like that? And then at the back, is he going to play with the 4? Is he going to play with the 3? What way is he going to play it? The goalkeeping situation takes care of itself, obviously. But as Spider alluded to, if you bring in another defender, or is he going to bring in Lavia and then shut it down? And if he's bringing in Lavia, I heard last week then if he brings in Lavia, is the option then to drop Fabinho in as that sort of defender and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. We've heard a number of thoughts about that. That kind of, sometimes I like that kind of out-of-box thinking, but sometimes I also worry about it as well, that you're shifting things around to let FSG off the hook kind of a bit. And when we should be going out, like we've really starved ourselves for a number of transfer windows. And at this stage, this is not the summer to do it. We know we need fixing up. 2 players is certainly not an overhaul. But I think in terms of pre-season, I think it'll be more of a tactical pre-season than it will be a blood and guts pre-season, if you like, because I think he did learn those boys after that long season, the previous season, chasing the quad, to go into a camp like that. They were absolutely banjaxed. And we don't even see a lot of the hard yards and miles that those boys put in. We see the fancy videos where they're all cycling around the Alps having a great time. But those boys must have put in a serious shift, because those boys were banjacks from day one. They ran out onto Craven Cottage last season for the first game, and they were Polacks right from day one. So I think you'll probably have learned from that, you know.
No, I think to remember even last season, there was only a 3-week turnover last season in between the season that we had the longest season ever, and then at least this time they have an extra 3 weeks on the holidays, was what they got this summer. So I think Klopp, well, he won't do the high altitude training again. Anyway, I think he's alluded to that himself, but I think he's going to step in with a similar start point where he goes normally and gradually builds them up. But at least they have the extra 3 weeks this time round, because they didn't have that the last season. It's huge. That's super important for that rest for him.
Yeah, but he'll probably take the view as well that, like, a number of players had international duty at the end of the season and stuff like that for an extra 2 weeks or whatever it was. And also the boys coming back from the under-21s championship, they're going to need time off. So they'll probably take 2 weeks off. So they may or may not be available for selection come Chelsea and stuff like that. So it's an interesting, and then he has to decide, the boys brought in Szoboszlai and stuff like that. Where is he going to play him? Is he left? Is he right? How is he going to play him? What's his thinking? What has he brought him in for? You know, because we've heard of the players coming in and we've celebrated what they've done, but we're not too sure what the gaffer's thinking really is there in that midfield. And that's the conundrum to be resolved, as it was last season. That exposed the back line really.
Is Ramsey ready to go yet?
Looks like no.
Because if he is, he's going to get a lot of game time over the next few weeks with Trent not coming back after the Euros for a bit. Not Trent, Curtis and stuff like that. So you're going to have Trent up there. There's going to be extra spaces for the youths to come in. So you might see a lot of game time. Elliott's not going to be there either. But if you had thinking like he's after bringing Gakpo in, so that are we saying kind of like that Gakpo and Luis Diaz are going to rotate? Is it Jota and Nunes are going to rotate? Who's going to rotate with Salah? Is it going to be Szoboszlai in some games, maybe? And then, you're probably going to have Gakpo on the left and maybe, and back and forth. There's an abundance of riches there, but we don't know who's going to play what, but it's just too much up front. Wouldn't surprise me if we saw Jota leaving to go to the door before the window ends, only for the fact that we could probably get premium money for him now. And then, he's picking up a lot of injuries, as much injuries as Thiago has. So it wouldn't surprise me if he left.
I think we all spoke about it back end of last season as well. But it would leave Liverpool short. I think we're one Salah injury away from being back to square one in relation to our forward line. But it's an interesting thought, mate. But it's a great point that you've alluded to there now in relation to in terms of fatigue. Nigel, in terms of what the lads have said, do you think that Jurgen Klopp will very much have learned? Well, we'll find out next couple of weeks, but it's one thing appeasing the football club from a marketing perspective in terms of going away. We get it, it's part of the business. You've got to go and see the fans around the world, but at the expense of the player fatigue, as Niall alluded to there last season, surely Jurgen Klopp had to put his foot down and just say, no, I just want the lads to go away for 2 days or 2 weeks and go to certain camps, because obviously, Kev's going over to Germany in a couple of weeks, and they're going to Germany. It's only a 2-hour flight, or even an hour flight anyway. And they'll have their private jets as well. But Nigel, do you anticipate that to him? Hopefully, Jurgen actually puts his foot down really this pre-season and gets back to. I get it's part of the promotion of Liverpool Football Club. At the end of the day, just get down to business, really, and focus on what is the priority, because we were a million miles off it last season.
Yeah, absolutely. What are we doing this year? Is it a couple of games in Germany? Are we going to Singapore or something like that?
Yeah, that's at the end. Yeah. I'm in Munich in 2 weeks' time, and I'm taking the train up to up that way to Gordon to see if I can catch them around the hotel and stuff.
We've got a game then at Deepdale. I think it's one of the other German teams.
Preston.
Preston's ground. It's Preston's ground. Yeah, we at Deepdale. We've got a game there. That's our last home game. Normally we play one game.
We've Leicester out in Singapore with Bayern Munich, is it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think something like that. got to be careful of miles on the clock and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's going to be difficult. You've got to. Are we going to sell this sell to buy policy that we seem to be adopting again? I like Nat Phillips, but is it going to could it come down to the fact that if we sell Nat Phillips, we might be able to afford another player? It's not going to play that many games. We got badly hamstrung a couple of years ago, and him and Reece Williams came in and did a wonderful job and got us into Europe. But they've got to see that policy has cost us for 3 years. That we can't compete.
Look at Pep Guardiola, Nigel. He has his say. He doesn't really go to many pre-season games. What does he do, lads? He does 2-3 games a season. And he's the expert. He's won countless Premier Leagues back to back or whatever it is. Lost count. No one's asked anyway. But
he's like that trigger fella from bloody Foals and Horses. If one of his brush handles falls off, he's got another 4 to replace it. That's his abundance of riches. So if some of them aren't fit, they're not fit, but the other 3 will be. So he's got it there, and he is good at what he does. But he's still got so many players to take over in position.
Yeah, the quality drop off isn't as harsh.
Yeah.
It's not as harsh when he takes a player off. He brings off Haaland and brings on Alvarez. The drop off isn't as harsh, you know.
Yeah. 100%. So I was going to say, we've done mention some other clubs in the Premier League, but we know what teams. Certain teams not finished 17th this season. Cool. 7. Well, they've just sold one of their strikers anyway. No comment.
Yeah, I know. Well, Justin said there. I know he's saying that Jota was on fire at the end of last season. If I can pop it up there, where's Jota? So I know he was on fire at the end of last season, but the problem is he's missing too many times throughout the season. It's very similar to Thiago for me. Really good player on his day. Thiago's probably a more gifted midfielder in there if he can stay fit. Jota is, he's probably our most gifted header of the ball, and positional sense, he's fantastic when he gets into these positions. But then he's just not fit most of the time, and you have to think of how many games he can get up to 20 goals in one season, then disappear for the next 2 seasons, and that's just like having Daniel Sturridge all over again for me. So
this is the gaffer this season, isn't it? He's going to have to earn his bread because he's going to have to rotate these guys. We can't just have the same 3 up front week in, week out. Even from a Salah point of view, he's going to start having to get real clever in terms of his rotation and the timing of it and stuff like that. And that's part of. I think that's going to be a huge part of pre-season as well. Developing that kind of plan, seeing the guys and stuff like that and all, and where he can use them and utilize them, the versatility of them and stuff like that and all. That's what he's going to have to be looking at pre-season. Not that we just rock up and every week it's Diaz, Gakpo and Salah till you burn 2 of them out and then throw the other 2 lads in and stuff like that. I think this season's going to be a weird one. I think we're going to see one of the bigger rotational kind of squads used since Jurgen Klopp has come to the club, to be honest.
Yeah. 100%, mate. And lads and ladies, the final point, Darwizzy, the GOAT. Kev, it looks like, obviously, if anyone's not missed out on the social clip, it's on Liverpool's official YouTube channel anyway, but it looks like he's ripping into a couple of the Liverpool players already. He's laying lad, a couple of other Scouse words as well along the way.
Navigator was the same, Navi lad. That's what he was like, so that look.
It looks like he's enjoying himself, to say the least, and I think the more understanding, tactical understanding, fundamentally, I think I know he's going to have a very good season this season, and he's going to have a massive part to play in the new season to come, mate. I'm excited.
I'd say, as I said, the biggest hindrance to us last season was the non-existence of help for Fabinho and the no creativity from the midfield because of it. So Jordan Henderson was constantly passing either back across or back, and he was never going forward. There's a couple of you go back to a couple of seasons before that, he was playing cutting balls through to Mo Salah running through on goal against United, doing the same against Everton. Fantastic underpasses, instead of outside passes. This time it was all out to the wing. Salah was trapped out in the wing. There was no help from the midfield. He had to create his own space. With McAllister and Szoboszlai, I think we've gotten in 2 of our most important positions and 2 of our most important chunks, let's say, pieces of the puzzle. Let's say, I know that's a cliche, but it is because we need somebody with legs that can also do a tackle in front of Fabinho and help him. And McAllister's well capable of winning the ball back. Szoboszlai is well capable of winning the ball back.
Curtis, as we said before.
Curtis is there. So, and for me, you'd probably see a bit more rotation between Szoboszlai and Salah this season if he is going to go play that route. If he's going from like 3-box-3 to 4-4-3 or 4-4-2, and you might see a little bit of that as well if Salah is not on his game. But I think having these two boys in there is just going to create more space for Salah. As I said, as long as Gakpo's kept more to the left in the games that he plays, he's going to create more opportunities for Núñez in front of him. And, Jota can come on and score a goal in 15 minutes, no problem. So he needs to, like Niall is spot on when it comes to saying the rotation needs to be key this season. You need to protect the players that are easily injured. By sparingly giving them the game time that the team needs, not that they need. There's you'll be sick of playing. Every player's got it into his contract that he's going to need minutes on the pitch, but you're just going to have to do it right this time. Yeah. And look, I would start Jota is no problem in the UEFA Cup. I would start your Darwin's in the league and stuff like that. Gakpo's, Luis Diaz in the league, maybe Gakpo's in the cup. You could start your Curtis Jones in the UEFA Cup. You could start, or Europa League, whatever you call it.
As you mentioned there, Kev, if Núñez gets a bit of confidence in that,
he's flying.
League, and he takes that into the Premier League, that's only done about well because, no respect to the competition, but it's not like when you're playing Champions League, of course, there might be a slight drop-off in quality, but of course, fundamentally, the quality will still be there. But I think that only bodes too well for Núñez as well. As
he'll bully him. I think he'll bully most of the defences in that Europa League if he plays. But I can't say... I don't think he'll play too early on in the competition. I think he'll play a bit later on. Maybe if we need the points, he'll start and he'll come on and play. But whether he starts it, it's one you're going to see mostly the other lads be used for. And you're going to keep your Salahs, your Núñez, your Gakpos, and your Diaz's, whichever one's going to rotate there for the league. Because that's one that we can go all over the season, knowing that we can, with the quality of the squad, we should automatically think that we're going to be in the latter stages of that Europa League competition, and we have to do it wisely. So that's why you have to protect. If Thiago's staying, you have to protect your Thiagos, play him in these little competitions, do the same with Jota, and then bring him on for cameo roles in the league, and use them sparingly. But even though they're very, very gifted players, we've had all I have to say is Oxlade-Chamberlain and Naby Keita. You play them too much too often, and they're gone. And then you have nobody to cover. And then that's what we're left with. So, yeah.
It was absolutely a liability that Curtis Jones's development would have been a lot more progressed if Naby and Ox weren't given the opportunities they were.
We wouldn't be talking about McAllister or Szoboszlai, no. When McAllister, he'd be in there.
Yeah. So, and hopefully, it looks like, as we've seen in recent weeks, he's getting his opportunity. We just want to bring this up. Obviously, this is on Trent's social media as well. He's stepping up his preparation for the new season. I think over the last couple of weeks, he has said he wants to prioritise. It looks like he's come back a bit more early than anticipated, not in terms of the full training, but this is him away, obviously. As we know with these athletes, they pay top dollar for all like their individual. They'll probably have people that they know that will train them every single season, but looks like he's stepping up, even 3 kicks, happy days. But yeah, he's looking good. And as we know with our Trent anyway, he's going to be ready and ready to go anyway. Because I tell you what, one thing that would have absolutely done all of our heads in on the panel, and every Liverpool fan was watching Manchester City win that Champions League anyway. It was inevitable, but that was the one thing that we had. Well, no one cares if they win anything because give it another 10 years, then people will start actually caring anyway. But enough of them. I'm excited for the new season. I know Nigel, Niall, Kev, obviously, everyone in the comments as well. Big shout out to Owen as well from the Cop On podcast. But to conclude, lads, I'll start with Niall. Massive thank you for coming on, mate. And please do shout out your socials, mate. And if you've got any shows this week or air plans where everyone can find you, matey.
Yeah, it's basically the upper tier on everything. We're on YouTube. You'll find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music for the audio shows. Same on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. It's the upper tier. The Liverpool section is the Shankly Sessions. That's where you'll find that in the playlists. This week we'll have a couple of shows coming up. I'm doing these morning update shows on the transfer market. My little drive into work because of the traffic here in Wicklow and Dublin is crazy, so I get time to do a bit of content. And on top of that, we'll be doing the normal variety shows. There'll be a Liverpool update show this week as well. Trying to let things kind of slide into pre-season at the moment so we can get some decent content out there, because a lot of the links at the moment are just hysteria and it's just frustrating talking about them as well. But cheers for having me on. Appreciate it, lads.
You're very welcome, mate. Obviously, chat, make sure you head over. Let's get, obviously, Niall all the way to 1,000. Should be on well more than that anyway. He's absolutely smashing it at the minute, mate. Keep it up. And obviously, as you can see there, chat, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, please do head over as well. Kevin, you'd hate it when I shout that. Kevin! Kev,
Let's crack.
please do shout out where your socials, and obviously shout out the Kitmen as well, if you can, please, mate.
Yeah, of course, lads. Well, football is back this week, so I'm going to be back this week. So whatever games are coming up this week, I'm going to be doing a watch along for. So I think it's Wednesday, isn't it? I'm playing a little thing. I don't know if it's on the telly box or what, or if it's on the LFC TV Go. But if it is, I'll be watching and I'll do a watch along for that. And another thing with the Kitman, bit of a development recently with that. A hotel crowd have come in for us, and they want to do the Kitman show live. Or pre-recorded as well, and pre-recorded shows, which means that it's going to be kind of, I don't know what way you want to talk. It's going to be similar to, think of an overlap or a kickoff session with like a scene of Soccer AM where there's everybody in fans, but it's all Premier League shows. And that's going to be kicking off in the next couple of weeks. We're going out to prep it this week. And Kev over here, and this Jack will be coming over every few weeks for a show. But Kev, the other guy here that I do it with here in Ireland, he'll be here and we'll be hosting shows and panels where we'll be bringing in guests and things like that. And we're trying to sneak Jamie Carragher down from his Dublin trip if we can to get him in, because I've been contacting him. But that's a long shot. But other than that, we'll have a few ex-legends and stuff like that that'll be coming down. Fans from other clubs. We'll be sitting down and we'll be getting questions from the audience that are going to be down there as well. So it's going to be hosted weekly, pre-weekends and post-weekends, and maybe even after-match sessions down there. So yeah, the Kitman is going to be pretty cool, and it's going to be like a proper kind of studio setup, which is great.
Yeah,
awesome. Fair play, lads.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Should be good. Obviously, I've made sure to drop obviously Niall's link, so please do head over, subscribe to all the lads' channels. Owen from the Cop On podcast did join us a bit earlier after shoot off anyway. So I really appreciate you if you're watching, Owen. Massive thank you for jumping on, mate. And Nigel, thank you very much for coming on, mate. Really do appreciate it. And just shout out I think you got Twitter anyway. Just shout
I'll be sitting here staring into space. So just my Twitter is at IrishRed11. So that's it.
It's all good, lad. The Twitter, don't go on those Twitter spaces, lad. Anyway, I'll tell you that now. Anyway, yeah, that's a whole
full Irish panel tonight, Jack.
Yeah, and
yeah, it's better than them London lads. I need to be popping on now, right, lads?
There we go.
Sorry, Ricky and Luke.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, good. But
all those unfollow buttons are getting hit straight away.
There we go. No, we love it, boys. Massive thank you to all my, obviously, Nigel, Kev, and obviously Niall as well, and obviously Owen. But most importantly, a massive thank you to every single one is as well, chat. Every single one is. Apologies if I've quickly breathed past your comments anyway, but I made sure to highlight them all and make sure everyone. But I really do appreciate every single one is. If you are watching on the repeat, make sure you do drop a like and a subscribe to all the lads' social medias as well. Links are in the description. But Reds, exciting times. We're building momentum in the next couple of weeks. And as Kev alluded to, all of the lads will be doing watch-alongs and everything. But stay tuned on the channel. We'll be live tomorrow at 7 p.m. GMT again for another episode. But Reds, for now, look after yourself. Enjoy the end of your weekend and go and smash Monday morning, whatever you're doing. Up to Reds. To that.